billing is primary subject today. We're going to start with adjusting service rates and actually managing and adjusting service rates, and primarily because this has been such a hot topic, right? We've seen sort of back and forth with MCOs, especially in North Carolina. We've seen rate cuts and then adjustments back to originals. So just want to kind of make sure you've got a good grasp of how to do that. So from services, you can certainly hit search and just populate all services. I'm going to drill down into some specific services. I'm here in our test database. So let's just look at a couple of good ones here, VIA and community networking. It's a very common one. And where you will find that rate history, if you're not familiar, many of you may be, but if you're not, you'll find that rate history down here. So that is date specific. So claims that are processed, they go out within that date range, within that specific service date range. That's the rate that they're going to be picking up, okay? Same with any rebills that are done. If an adjustment is made to the date range, an adjustment is made to the rate history, and that service date falls within that date range, rebilling would also come into play there. So, you know, we've, again, going back to a lot of this communication from the MCOs recently and sort of those changes, you could, I know there's been a reversion back to original rate history. Some agencies are deciding to change that, some are not, but quite simply, this is a good example of that. We saw this rate change in 10.1 where we saw a rate drop. So I may want to take that out and then extend this out further. And again, a lot of times we'll just push sort of a far future date, and then I would just hit save. That would be an example of reverting back to like an original. So if you had taken those steps, you know, back in September, early October, and you made those changes, and you now are wanting to revert back, that's essentially what it would look like. And the reverse would be true again if, let's say, sometime in first quarter, we see something like this, where the rate then reverts back. I would want to end date that date. And again, this is all conjecture, but let's say that this is kind of what we're working with. We would see something like this, and then maybe we're going to drop that rate, you know, kind of back down. Again, I'm just plugging in some numbers here just so you get the idea. But that's basically what that would look like. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about managing and adjusting these rates. So certainly if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop those into the chat. We'll just kind of keep moving. Any questions so far? Want to kind of keep moving along. We don't have a ton of time, but any questions around that? All right, guys. I want to take a look at time records. This is where a lot of processing function happens in OnTarget. When we talk about the billing NPI numbers being applied, when we talk about the client name, the caregiver, the service, the date of service, whether or not the source of that time record is from a note, is it from a schedule, was it manually entered, right? So in a sense, time records is really like a nerve center. It's a staging area, but it's like a nerve center that pushes into batch billing, if you're familiar, and then ultimately into you being able to generate claims. So a couple of super important filters here. Again, some of this may be retread for some of you. For some of you that haven't been using OnTarget for very long, it may be new. Super important filters here: the in batch no, billed no, and the eligible for billing eligible. just want to kind of call those out. Those are super, super important filters. Ones that when you are typically processing billing, those are ones that you want to set. Many of you already know this, but just kind of a refresher. So in current batch no, build no, eligible no. I hit search, I'm going to refresh. I can see right now I've got 41 total records. I can sort of see the total hours there. I also have all of these other filters at my disposal. I could certainly plug in a date range filter. We don't typically recommend that. You want to try to capture as much as you can, unless you have a certain reason for that. If you are specifically drilling down into a specific date range, maybe you're processing some voids that have come back into time records, and you're really, really targeting those specific time records. Certainly you would want to do that. You can certainly drill down into specific clients here. So just like all of our filters and all of our search grids, many of these filters can accept multiple entries, right? So I can do something like this, and now I'm filtering down to 3 specific clients. Remove them, hit search. You can clear filters at any point as well. And then, of course, something you guys are likely familiar with is the views. So I've already got a couple of saved views here. I'm going to go ahead and just select the Ready to Bill to, which is kind of a newer view. This one is just going back 1 year to 12/1/2024, sort of that timely filing type deadline. But you'll notice again, I've got my 3 super, super prominent filters plugged in here. Another super important one that you can use from time to time is the hold bill here. This is just a great way to kind of toggle this and see, look, is anything on hold bill? Have I maybe accidentally placed something on hold bill, or has the system placed something on hold bill? One reason for the system placing a time record automatically on hold bill is because the authorization has not been approved. So if you want to make a note of that, or a mental note of that, if you're not as familiar, that will cause the system to place it on a temporary hold bill until the authorization gets approved. So again, just a lot of filters here at your disposal. You can drill down into the authorizing payer. I'm going to kind of demo that here in just a bit. One other really nice thing, you can also trigger the validations at any point. So as a biller, if you're going through and you want to say, hey, where are we seeing validations? Maybe even where were their validations presented even back at the notes level, maybe back at the scheduling level, maybe they were, the staff was allowed to override, but I now want to on demand generate those validations. And so that I can do that right here. So just want to show you this, validate time records from all. I think we've got a handful in here. If not, I may have to remove some filters, but it's going to kind of chunk through whatever you got here. And here you go. Here's an example. Johnny Cool, as of on the 12/15 date, we had a service authorization maximum at the monthly unit level. Okay. So this is where you could see a multitude of validations. You could see things related to certifications that had expired. You could see validations like the one you're seeing where you're exceeding units. You could see missing ICD-10, right? So all of those things here. And just keep in mind too, you can export. So this becomes reporting. This is something that you can export out. You can share with QPs. You can share with management. Just another really good tool. And it's another kind of, again, like an on-demand way to trigger those validations. So that's just kind of demoing the validations. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a process that many of you are super, super familiar with, which is the just creating batch, Creating batch, super important part of this is where we apply rates. And it's another staging area. It's a way for you to really set eyes on, do these amounts look correct, right? It's kind of right before you generate claims. It's a way for you to look at that kind of maybe one last time before you generate those claims. Validate, verify some other information, all those good things. So I am going to go ahead and run this through. I'm just going to say create batch billing from all. I'm doing from all because I have this pre-filtered. Again, I've got that view selected where I've got all of my critical filters plugged in place. And then I've got this view status button. Is still processing 16 of the records, but again, billing provider is missing. We're going to take a look at that one. I think a lot of you guys run into that, so I want to actually kind of address that. Take a look at that together. You can also, what you just saw, that pop up will auto refresh every 60 seconds. But if you're impatient like I am, you can just click on batch billing status. And again, you likely have hundreds, if not thousands, of individual line items that you're trying to process. And just kind of keep that in mind. You've got right here in the lower, sort of just right of center, this batch billing status. You can click on that anytime through the process of when the system is chunking through the time records to batch. And yeah, as you can see here, billing provider is missing. We're going to dig into that just very quickly because, again, I think I see this come through with training support and from support a bit where, hey, why am I getting this? Why is this popping up and why is this missing? So you can see we did push through a good number of the records, and we can validate that by jumping over to batch and then hitting search. And yes, we did pull through a small amount, pulled through $735 worth. All right, so I do want to go ahead and address, again, I'm going to use the create batch billing again because I want to drill down. I just want to see that status. Billing provider missing. And that was on the CLS service. That was on that Community Living Support T2013 service. All right. So what it's telling us is billing provider is missing. And again, I think some of you probably hit this from time to time, especially if new services have been added or maybe something changed in the background. Maybe your maybe something has changed with your NPI, or maybe you've had a site change. Something in that connector has changed, right? And so I know this particular one, again, I'm going to drill down to the service. So let me look. We know it's CLS, and we know that it has to do with this Scott Smith. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So Scott Smith. And if we do a little bit of forensics here, we dig into the details a little bit and we scroll all the way over. I want you guys to pay attention to this right-hand column, the not found but required, or rather not found. The second part of that is not required. That's typically an attending. So for this particular service, it does not require attending information, attending NPI. However, we are not finding the NPI number. And there's a good reason for that. So, and typically, it's not always the case, but many, many times it has to do with a site configuration, has to do with a site connector. It's either information missing literally at the site level, or most often there's a connection that's not being established between the site and the service itself. Again, this is obviously kind of some old data. We're looking at Cardinal. just kind of bear with me here. But we can kind of fix this. We know that's the CLS individual, and it's with Cardinal. If we check the site, again, this has to do with site 101. So let's just kind of drill down here. Let's look at Site 101. So we go to Sites. If you have access to this, you may or may not. And so we can see here, yep, looks like all the MPI information's here. We've got the billing link, right? We've got all that information. So the question is, why are we getting this error? Why is that not connecting? What's going on? So it has to do with the service site connection. So if I plug in CLS, and again, bear with me, we're working with some old data here, Cardinal. We know that CLS individual T2013. And if I go all the way down here to the bottom, I want you guys to notice something. I don't see Site 101. So right there, that connection is not being established. We don't have the proper NPI, billing link, billing, global provider connection. Okay. And again, a lot of this configuration is handled by our billing support team. They are fantastic. They are the experts on this. But if you do see this and it's like, yeah, I absolutely understand this, and you feel comfortable and you've got these editing rights, and it's obvious that it's just an oversight, right? And there's a site missing from here, and you know it should be here without a doubt, then we're going to go ahead and add that. And there it is. There's that Site 101. Site 101. That is now in there. I'm going to save it. And now, guys, I want you to check this out. When I come back to time records and I refresh, now I've got that MPI number there, right? That's why we were getting that error message. So I'm just going to quickly, again, we got about 9 minutes left. We got just enough time here. I'm going to go ahead and pull these through, and let's see if it actually pulls through this time. Still processing. All right, I'm a little bit impatient. Go ahead and hit this again. Batch billing complete. All right, we had 8 records, so we should see that number jump when I refresh batch, and sure enough we do. We now have 14 records, and we got all that stuff from Scott Smith that pulled through. The rest of this, guys, is probably pretty common for you. You're very familiar with this. Again, if I want to create invoices, I just go create invoices. Yes, I do want to process those, and boom, there we go, right? So from there, I'm just going to work with some more recent claims here. Let's just work with what we just produced, and I do have some that I produced maybe yesterday. All right. So a couple of things here. Again, we're running kind of short on time here. Denials, rebills, deleting. Okay, deleting of records. Let me just kind of go back here a little bit further. I'm going to kind of go way back here. Couple of super important filters. Especially if you are processing rebills, or you're in the mode of doing rebills or rebilling or void notify. Super important filters to plug in here would be voided no. And especially if you're looking at claims that have not been paid, or maybe there's a partial payment on, those are super important filters to plug in. Paid no and voided no. Hit search and that refreshes. Again, I'm kind of going back a couple of years here. But if a claim has never been exported, so it's showing as unexported, maybe you caught this early before your export schedule kicked in, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a problem with this. I need to fix this like ASAP, okay? Again, this is a timing thing, but you may be able to actually delete this. So here's a great example of kind of one of these new records that is unexported. It's kind of newerish from 6 to 2025. I should be able to just delete this one. It's unexported. And sure enough, there you go. You have successfully deleted one claim. So those are situations where you can actually delete, all right? However, if I go, again, I'm just going to kind of filter down to these more recent claims. you will notice this claim right here, number one, it's got a serial number. Number two, it has been confirmed, which means it has been exported and it's been sent out the door. Very soon, I will likely have a reference number. And so if I simply try to delete this guy, I'm going to get a problem, right? Cannot delete once the invoice has been posted. So once that's been exported, once it's been posted, can't simply do that. What I would want to do at this point is I would want to void this if I need to make a change to this. All right, so I'm just going to take one of these. I'm just going to kind of talk through this very briefly. Again, we've got about 5 minutes. Void only is exactly like it says. It's going to void the claim and it puts it right back into time records. Void and notify is specifically used where maybe you've received payment on this and you are wanting to notify the payer that you are pushing that money back. So you're both voiding the claim and you are expecting the MCO to recoup that money. So that's kind of the nuance there. Void only, void and notify payer. So for this one, I'm just going to do a void only from selected. All right. And there we go. Voided invoice successful. And if I go back in here to time records, I should see this total bump. There we go. Yeah, there we go. And I see that all it did is it just pushed it right back into time records where I can edit it, I can manage it. Scenario for where you would want to do that void would be like, hey, maybe the authorization itself was wrong. Something was really, like maybe the wrong payer was selected. Maybe the wrong service altogether. There's something tying back to the authorization that's just dead wrong. And I'm needing to make some pretty significant changes, especially like if I've received a denial on that. Very briefly, you do have the rebill function. I don't have any claims that I can do that with. But what you will see is if you have a reference number, and this typically would apply to rebilling because maybe there's been a rate change and you want the system to pick up that new rate change and push it back out the door. Maybe you're rebilling because you got denial because patient not identified. Maybe the Medicaid ID number was put in incorrectly. Maybe there's incorrect demographic information for the client. Those are reasons why you could do, and again, it's grayed out, a simple rebill selected, okay? That's basically going to take that claim. It's going to pick up any of those changes. That could even be a change in diagnosis code. It's going to pick up those changes within the client record. It's going to apply them, and it's going to push it right back out the door. But again, you are looking for a reference number that's come back in. It's meaning that we've received that 837 and that has posted back into OnTarget. One last thing here at claims, and then I'm going to just speed through reports real quick, is 837 status window. So this is another kind of on demand. As you are doing billing and as you're processing billing weekly, definitely take a look at this. This is a great way for you to just kind of keep up and see, look, did we transmit? Has it been submitted? Have the 837s gone out? And you can also see here, you've got total dollar amounts. You can see, has it been submitted? You can see the date and the time that it was submitted. And you can also see the payer or payers that you have submitted to. So that's another great on demand. Pushing real hard here. Last thing, guys, reports. I do want to just kind of speed through just touch on a couple of reports. One thing that to keep in mind is if you don't see any reports, if that hasn't been opened up, then you need to go to configure security if you're a security admin. And for the roles that need these reports, you're going to select the role. and then you're just going to choose. It's primarily the can run, and you will see a ton of billing reports in here. You're going to see a ton of AR aging reports. Some other really good ones, the billing summary, claim summary, payment summary, revenue by programs, another great one, unpaid invoices. So you want to ensure that can run. And guys, give me about maybe 2-3 more minutes, and then I think we'll be done. And then you do want to make sure, for the role that needs it, that reports is open, and do they need published documents? Okay. So that's one other thing. You will notice I am not seeing reports here. There's a reason for that, and I wanted to demonstrate this for you. When I click on menu settings, it's because for me, reports is stuck over here and it's invisible. I'm going to make it visible. So I'm going to just grab it and then drag it to the left, hit OK, refresh the page. Now I can see reports. And again, billing reports, guys, we've got a ton of billing reports. I would definitely, if you want to dig any deeper into this, we have a YouTube video that really digs a little more in depth on the reports. And then let me kind of just touch on this again. Published documents. Definitely be checking your published documents. I want to show you just very briefly just a quick screenshot of what you may see with published documents. So you definitely want to be checking your billing rejections folder. You want to make sure you're checking that at all times. Every time you bill, do you have any rejections? We also put in here any of your automatic posting reports. We also display and put into a folder your 837 response files. So definitely be checking those. Make sure you don't have any errors. Make sure you don't have any billing errors or billing rejections. Super, super important if you are the primary biller. Last thing, guys, I know we're running long on time. Just want to touch on a couple here. AR aging is a great one here. I'm just going to run it as of today. This will take just a couple of seconds here. This is a really good one. This is going to show you kind of a 30, 60, 90 breakdown. It even breaks it down by client. It shows you the outstanding amount, the outstanding balance. It shows you payments. That is a really good one. I will just mention a few others. Billing summary is another great one. Claims, of course, is good. Claim summary is another good one. I'll kind of show you this real quick. So I'm just going to run by, let's see. Let's just run this for a year. Just don't want to get too much data in here. This gives you an idea of what it looks like, though. So you're going to basically get payer information. You're going to get the client information. You're going to get payer totals. And then just to mention a couple of others. And again, if you want to dig into the details on this, certainly check out our YouTube channel. Payment summary is another great one. This is a really good one to check. I'm just going to run that through to today real quick. Let's see what we get back on here. Hopefully this won't be too much data. If it is, I'll have to kill the session. And then I want to mention 2 other super important filters, and then we'll hop off of here. Yep, too much data. Okay, let me just run through here. There we go. Again, we're just not pulling back a lot here, but you get the idea. You're going to see cost center information. So if you've got 5 different cost centers, this is a really good one because it breaks out and shows you based on the claim date range. It shows you the amount, it shows you the payments, and it shows you the outstanding balance by cost center. So folks love that one. Don't have a lot of time to show you this one, but again, I would also check out the revenue by program report, and I would also definitely check out the unpaid invoices report. Typically, you can run that as of today. That is a great way to run that report and just kind of see all outstanding unpaid invoices.